Welcome back to the Michigan Business Beat, brought to you on the Michigan Business Network, and we are here at the Grand Hotel for the Policy Conference, annually put on by the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce, and we have with us U.S. Senator Gary Peters. How are you, Senator?
Well, and you?
I'm way better than anybody expects I would be.
No, I'd expect you to be well. You've always got a smile on your face.
I think it's ignorance is bliss, but I'm happy, so there you go.
That's good. Well, it's happy to be here because we can all see each other face to face. It's not on a Zoom and two-dimensionally. Seeing people three-dimensionally is great.
It's kind of interesting because the last guest I just had on said, well, it's nice to know when my friends are talking to me, they have pants on. I can be sure of that. You know what I mean?
Yes, we can be sure here.
So that's good. Tell me what's happening, as if anything's happening in D.C. As it relates here.
Well, the one issue that we're in the middle of right now, particularly relates to businesses, is the semiconductor shortages that we have and the supply chain disruptions there. So we have a Competitiveness Act that has moved through the House and through the Senate. It's now in conference committee. I've been appointed as one of the Senate conferees to get that legislation through to make sure that we continue to be the most competitive economy in the world. And central to that is making sure that we have a steady supply of semiconductor chips, both the advanced chips for the products of the future, but the so-called legacy chips or mature chips that are in our autos, and not just our autos, our washing machines and everything that we make. But we are clearly overly dependent on foreign sources for those. That can't happen. We've got to bring that back onshore here in America. And so we've got a $52 billion package that will help incentivize the fabrication and manufacturing of chips in the United States, which will be critical for us to compete with South Korea, Taiwan, China, and the other players in that area.
Well, and I was going to say, it's not that because it's a foreign country, they're not friendly to us. They just ran out of supply also.
They do, and they're going to obviously take care of their own, but just like we would beforehand. And the supply chain issue goes back with me, back actually to 2019. I chair Homeland Security, Government Affairs. I was a ranking member there. We're an oversight committee. And I did a report through our committee on drug shortages that we have in the country back in 2019. Hospitals regularly have to meet and say, this drug, we have a shortage. We don't have this drug, but our patients still need this treatment. What do we do? And normally the solution was finding another drug that was less effective and more expensive. So why was this happening? And in our analysis, we showed that nearly, for example, 85% of all the precursors for drugs that we use in this country are in China. That's a concentrated market there, and if you only have one supplier from a country, that can get disrupted. And actually, the report conclusion that I had, and this is in 2019, I said, when there is a pandemic, the United States will find itself in a precarious situation. 6 months later, there we were, and we couldn't get face masks, we couldn't get swabs for tests. It was clear that in a pandemic, countries are going to keep their stuff for their own people, which we would do the same as well. Let's look at this as a Homeland Security issue, just like we would do with the Department of Defense. We make sure we make our warships in America. We don't make them in other countries.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And the one thing half of us got toilet paper, if you remember. That was a ridiculous time.
Crazy.
I mean, what people were doing. Let's talk a little bit about broadband, because that is infrastructure that really needs attention, and especially here in the state of Michigan.
It is, and part of the bills that we passed, the infrastructure package, as well as the CARES Act that passed, has substantial investments to make sure everybody has access to high-speed broadband internet. We know, and we certainly saw the huge gaps during the pandemic when everything was going online, from schools to everybody was on their Zooms, as you talked about. But if you didn't have access to high-speed broadband, you were in trouble.
Yeah.
So everybody, it's essential to do that. So we've put substantial resources in those packages. The infrastructure package, for example, millions of dollars to connect everybody in the state. It's estimated over 400,000 more households that were not on the internet will now be able to afford and have the technology to get on. And that we have to really cross that digital divide to make sure no matter who you are, no matter where you live, you have access to affordable, quality, high-speed internet.
So continually this comes up because it comes up as the number one real problem for businesses confronting, which is talent.
Yeah.
What are we going to do there? I mean, there's 8 million things going on, and some of them are coordinated, some of them are not.
Yeah, talent is the number one issue. We want to make sure our training programs are aligned properly with what people need. It's one thing to be able to hire someone, but they also have to have the skills and training that you need. Putting more money into apprenticeship programs and skilled training is absolutely critical, and a big part of the packages that have passed and will continue to pass, something that I'm particularly focused on.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit, because you have some insight on this. Russia, China, who's our enemy, who's not our enemy, where do they infringe, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, certainly there's no question that they are not our friends. We have to deal with them at arm's length and understand where they're coming from. We see that with Russia and Putin's murderous attack on a peaceful country. We're all horrified by what we see on television every night, which is why it's critical we do everything we can to support the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian military. I serve on the Armed Services Committee. We just passed another major package to provide the kinds of weapons that the military will need, from heavy artillery to, and recent announcement by the President, some advanced rockets, precision rockets as well, to hit back, but also humanitarian aid for the refugees that are both out of Ukraine and the folks who are refugees within their own country because they can't be in their own house.
Well, I'll tell you what, your work's cut out, and I'm glad you took that job, because you're doing a great job.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, U.S. Senator Gary Peters. You are watching the Michigan Business Beat on the Michigan Business Network. I'm Chris Holman, coming to you from the island where we're at the Policy Conference, annually put on by the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce, and we'll be right back with more of that.